Welcome to Receiving Your Weekly Quranic Wisdom Study. We are continuing to study with Dr. Yamina, and we've been reading from the words by Wisdom Study, Said Nursi, and we have been reading 6 words. So inshallah, this is probably going to be our last session on it. And with that, I turn to Dr. Yamina. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So as inshallah you're all doing well. Everyone is fine, and so this 6th word is actually the reflections of Imam Nursi rahimahullah on the beginning of the ayah, which says God has purchased, truly or verily God has purchased from the believers their property and themselves or their selves, that paradise might be theirs. So we need to keep in mind that we are looking at this passage from the Quran, inshallah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have been talking about a deal, right? A purchase. We are going to sell and ourselves and our property to God, or God has purchased.
Yeah, and God saying He's purchasing it from us, and we've seen so far what it means, and especially through the 5 benefits, and through the 5 benefits, except or the prophets, I think they were called. The 3rd one, we've seen how to use sight and hearing and tongue and tasting, and in order to profit, to sell them. What does it mean to sell them? To use them for the purpose of their creation, and therefore to benefit from this deal. And we get to the signs and the indications and the seeds of paradise while here on earth, because that's the way to get in touch with the most beautiful names of God while here, because everything that matters is while we are here, being here. That's why we've been sent on earth in this world, and that's the purpose of life. And so we'll be fulfilling that purpose. And the profit is not only after we die in Akhirah, but it's also right now. That's why we can confirm the truth of the message of the Quran and the guidance of the Quran, because we start living preliminarily, we get prepared, we start getting prepared or preparing, we're being prepared, and we prepare for that eternal life to come. Because as I always say, after we die, it's too late. So we need to do the work right now. Now, so at the beginning, he said that the author, who is sharing his reflections on this passage from the Quran with us, he's saying there are 5 prophets. It doesn't mean there are only 5, but here he is sharing 5. And at the same time, there are also 5 losses. And this is something that is also we find in the Quran all the time. There is no neutral way of being. Either we follow the wisdom of the wisdom and the purpose of our creation, and we find true meaning and true lastingness. Or when we are not doing that, we are not staying in a no man's land in between. No, we are, whether explicitly or implicitly, most of the time it's going to be implicit because that's the nature of mindlessness, of ghafla, of heedlessness. We implicitly are in opposition to that purpose, to the meaning of life. And so we are doing just the opposite. And we'll talk about it more. So there is no neutral path. And that's why in the Quran it says, we inspired you to 2 ways. We guide you to the 2 ways. Or, and that's why when in the Quran it's always like, it's either you're ending in paradise or in hell, because even the lack of being in paradise, the lack of happiness, the lack of joy will be hell-like, because especially in Akhirah, when we realize we won't be able to play dumb and distract ourselves, there will be no way for distracting ourselves. We'll have to face the reality that we wasted our potential, our lives in this world. And so that will hurt. It's not like, okay, I didn't get paradise, I don't mind. No, it's that's not how we are created. And that's why you see in the Quran, it talks about belief and then unbelief. Believers, unbelievers, gratitude, ungratitude. And this is the nature of this world, and a world of opposites. And of course, it is through opposites that we get to grasp the meaning of things and eventually the beautiful names of God. And when we get to that meaning beyond the opposites, it means we already have benefited from those opposites for the purpose of their being opposites. And then we can go beyond them. We are still in the world of opposites, but like the heart and especially the soul, the spirit, the ruh, will use the opposites as ayat, as indications, as stairs to reach the realm of the beautiful names of God, which is beyond any opposite. But we do live in we can think of, even our language reflects that. We cannot think of south without north, of bad without good, of long without short. That's how the world is, because it's all relative. We always need to compare things, but that's not the reality of things. That's pointing to a reality beyond. And if we're stuck in the world of opposites, then we'll be struggling all the time, and we won't be able to see what's beyond. We won't see light, because we'll be too, just when we say, oh, I found light, then there is darkness, because light and darkness coexist in this world. And so that's why here there are prophets, and if there are prophets, there are losses. And actually at the beginning he says, in addition to being deprived of the prophets, there are losses, which is true. Like, not only we don't get to enjoy the benefits and the profits, but also that situation is a loss, and he's going to tell us what the losses are. So,
I mean, I just wanted to share this verse. As you were speaking, I looked at trade as it is a key word in the Quran. I mean, key concept, this trade, this bargain, this deal. And there's this one verse that's on the screen, as you see, Surah 61 As-Saf, verse 10. It says, استعوذ بالله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم. O you who believe or who have attained faith, shall I point out to you a bargain that will save you from grievous suffering? So a bargain that will save you, which means if you don't do this deal, it's not neutral. There is grievous suffering in this world and the next. So tied in with what you were saying.
Why do I always feel the need to repeat this point? I feel the need personally for myself, because there is a part of us that mindless part of us that wants to pretend that okay, I'm not going to get the benefits. I don't mind. It's not like that. No. You're not going to get the benefits. Plus, you will get. What did he say here? Adab alim, like suffering, like grievous suffering. So then we wake up like, do I want this grievous suffering? And of course, it's talking about akhirah, about life, the hereafter. But anything that refers to the hereafter can be confirmed here, because there is a mini small indications. There are indications to that suffering here. It means there
Or a
will
foretaste.
Sorry?
Or a foretaste.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Thank you. This is also a nice. I mean, thank you for sharing this. There's so many other passages in the Quran, and because all these concepts and these themes are all interconnected, you can find so many. Yesterday and today I was looking, and then I said too many. There are too many. So even in this surah, Surah At-Tawbah, Surah 9, where this passage is coming from, you can see, I don't know how many times it is repeated, how your property and your children or this and that can be a distraction. Use them this way, not this way. So even in the same surah, so it means if something is repeated, it means it is to attract our attention, that it is very important. It means we need the repetition. Again, it's like we need food, so we eat every day. We need liquids even more, and so we drink even more often. And we need air the most, and so we don't stop breathing. And so if something is repeated, it points to a need that needs to be taken care of. It means we have the need to be reminded of this reality, of this fact of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why these sessions are called Quranic wisdom sessions, because there's a key here, right? We're thinking about bargain, and which is a key concept in the Quran, key reminder throughout, so that the people now then can go back and do their own searches and look at trade, look at bargain, you look at what does it mean to sell yourself to God. These are kind of keys. These sessions are giving us keys to recognize these Quranic treasures. So in that sense, that's why it's called Quranic Wisdom series. Even though we are reading from Imam Nursi, we're looking at how he's helping us understand the Quran better. In this case, this idea of selling, because we have spoken about this before, but just to highlight, oftentimes when we read, we think about selling yourself or property as if you give them up.
But we don't know what selling is.
Yeah.
If we don't know how to sell, then it's not very helpful to know. I may really want to sell it, but I have no idea how to sell. And especially, I mean, when we started this, I looked at different commentaries on the Quran, and one very well-known classical commentary about the beginning of this ayah, which is this passage. Truly God has purchased of the believers their lives and their properties for that theirs shall be paradise. It says, Allah states that He has compensated. I'm reading from the translation because the original is in Arabic. Allah states that He has compensated His believing servants for their lives and wealth if they give them up to in His cause with paradise. So Allah states that He has compensated His believing servants for their lives and wealth with paradise. This demonstrates Allah's favor, His generosity and bounty, for He has accepted the good that He already owns and bestowed as a prize from His faithful servant. That's it. So it is correct what He's saying here, but it's saying Allah states, yes. And do I need help? Once you get the translation, you understand that yes, God is stating that He compensates His believing servants with paradise if they give them up in His cause. That's the most important thing. What does it mean to give your life and property? Actually, it's not life. The original is not life, it's self. أنفسهم. But here in the translation is saying life. And this demonstrates Allah's favor, generosity, definitely. Once I figure out how to sell the property back to God, how to give them up in His cause, then I will understand that this is very generous and bountiful. But that point is not unclear. Well, at least it's not only unclear here in this particular commentary. It doesn't tell us how we do that. And that's why, since I learned how to do it through this commentary that we are sharing now, I thought it's good to share it with everyone, because once we learn the basic concepts, like Isra just said, like this, how to sell, for instance, then we can use it. Each time we find this concept in the Quran, we will use it again. And of course, we can also, if you're doing your own work, what I do is find, and it's very easy now, you can go to Quran corpus and find all the verses that have, for instance, the same word, bargain or sell or buy or things like that. Put them together, put them each in its context, and what we learned should not, should not contradict the Quranic text. On the contrary, it will, inshallah, help us make the connection. And you see that all these ayats, all these concepts that seem to be disconnected or like each one in a different, sometimes in the same ayah, you wonder why it started with something and ended with something else. Everything starts coming back into place, like the puzzle starts, you start putting the pieces together and you have a bigger image. And then you feel really connected to the message of the Quran, because you feel that it's really relevant to me here and now. It's not talking about like, okay, some people who, the believers, the faithful ones, God is stating this. So how is it, where is it in my life? How do I sell myself and my property to God? And how do I see that it's truly a blessing here and now? How do I confirm this ayah? I can only confirm it by enacting it, but I cannot enact it if I don't know what it means. So inshallah, we can start with the losses. If someone can share with us, do the reading, and then we can.
Okay, I'll read, inshallah.
Thank you.
Let me see. Bismillah. Okay, the fifth prophet. Those who have experienced illumination and have unveiled to them the true nature of things, the elect who have witnessed the truth, are all agreed that the exalted reward for all the worship and glorification of God performed by your members and instruments will be given to you at the time of greatest need, in the form of the fruits of paradise. If you spurn this trade with its fivefold profit, in addition to being deprived of its profit, you will suffer fivefold loss. The first loss, the property and offspring to which you are so attached, the soul and its caprice that you worship, the youth and life with which you are infatuated, all will vanish and be lost. Your hands will be empty, but they will leave behind them sin and pain, fastened on your neck like a yoke. The second loss, you will suffer the penalty for betrayal of the trust. For you will have wronged your own self by using the most precious tools on the most worthless objects. The third loss, by casting down all the precious faculties of man to a level much inferior to the animals, you will have insulted and transgressed against God's wisdom. The fourth loss, in your weakness and poverty, you will have placed the heavy burden of life on your weak shoulders and will constantly groan and lament beneath the blows of transience and separation. The fifth loss, you will have clothed in an ugly form, fit to open the gates of hell in front of you. The fair gifts of the compassionate one, such as your intelligence, your heart, your eyes, and your tongue, given to you to make preparation for the foundations of everlasting life and eternal happiness in the hereafter. Now, is it so difficult to sell the trust? Is it so burdensome that many people shun the transaction? By no means. It is not in the least burdensome. For the limits of the permissible are broad and are quite adequate for man's desire. There is no need to trespass on the forbidden. The duties imposed by God are light and few in number. To be the slave and soldier of God is an indescribably pleasurable honor. One's duty is simply to act and embark on all things in God's name, like a soldier, to take and to give on God's behalf, to move and be still in accordance with his permission and law. If one falls short, then one should seek his forgiveness, say, O Lord, forgive our faults and accept us as your slaves. Make us sure holders of your trust until the time comes when it is taken from us. Amen. And make petition unto him. You want me to still go on or to stop here?
That's the end, actually.
Yeah, the 7th word is next page. Okay, yeah. So 5 losses. And I feel that first paragraph before the 5 losses. Can I read it again? Like, I feel it needs to be read again, like that before the losses. Those who have experienced illumination and had unveiled to them the
That's
true
the
nature,
prophet, and we discussed it last week.
the elect who have witnessed the truth, and all agreed that the exalted reward for all the worship and glorification of God performed by your members and instruments will be given to you at the time of the greatest need in the form of the fruits of paradise. I think what caught my attention this time is that they're given to you in the time of your greatest need. Like that caught my attention. In the time of your greatest need, in the form of fruits of paradise. Like the things that you work on, like, like if you, like, Sarah keeps reminding us working on breathing, like, so if you're working on it, then the time of greatest need, when you're panicking, then it comes, like, then it comes to comfort you, that, and like you're adding, say you need to work on gratitude. So those things that you work on, if you're working on, they come to you in the time of greatest need as the fruits of paradise, like, because you need them, you're so much in need of them. There's nothing else that you would rather have. Anyway, that was my one comment. I'll silence myself.
Thank you. Thank you. So that was the prophet. And when we are using our faculties in the way they are supposed to be used, which means to know God. And as we know him, we get to know that he is our Rabb, our sustainer, our provider, our benefactor. And so the heart starts changing its loyalty, let's say. Instead of being attached to the world, it will become automatically the love that we have for protection, for beauty, for benefits, for will go to the true source of all those benefits, which is God. And so the more we appreciate the blessings, the more we will love the gifter, the true gifter of the blessings. When we are not doing this consciously, we'll be stuck in loving things for themselves, as if the relationship between us and the world is horizontal, because in that state of ghafla, in that state of mindlessness and heedlessness, it seems as though the benefit is coming from the things themselves. And because we have not questioned it, then we keep that living in that illusion. And so when we read that we need to worship God means we love him, we find it very difficult, and we think we have to make an effort. And of course, there cannot be two beloveds in the same hearts, two true beloveds. So we get stuck in the things themselves. And even when we say Alhamdulillah, praise and gratitude and thanks and appreciation belong to God alone, we say it with our tongue, but our heart is still stuck in things themselves. And it becomes like, when you're stuck in something gluey, we cannot pull ourselves out of that pit of illusion, that things that we need the world, we need things themselves. Those illusory horizontal, let's say, because horizontal connections. And of course, we are using vertical as, let's say, metaphor, as non-horizontal, because we know that God is not up there, but it means it's not horizontal. It's not between the things themselves. And the example that is easy to understand for us now is the telephone. It seems like I can reach everyone through my telephone, but actually the telephone is not doing it. It's only a tool. The telephone is connected to a satellite, and through that satellite, I can connect to everyone else. But if I'm unaware of this, it seems like I call someone, they answer. It seems like the connection is directly horizontal. And it's true for everything else in the world. So if we look at the first loss, actually the 5 losses are all interconnected. If you read again, and it revolves around the one thing that is in the first loss, we're saying all will vanish. In the fourth loss, we're saying the blows of transience and separation. In the fifth loss, it takes about preparing for everlasting life. So the first thing is that everything is passing and transient. And if it's passing and transient, it means it is not worth living for. It is not worth being the goal and purpose of our life. And when we lose sight of this reality, the reality of transience, of impermanence, then we, because we get attached to the world itself, to things themselves, we are left, that's the loss number 1, we are left with the pain of losing everything, the pain of loss and separation. So I did go read this morning. Actually, I read the 5 losses last night before I go to sleep, so that when I wake up in the morning, I am more trying to reflect on that. And I realized that it seems like it's easy to understand, like there is nothing more to say, that's it, okay. The property and offspring to which you are attached, the soul and its caprice that you worship, the youth and life that with which you are infatuated, will all vanish and be lost. Okay, that's it. It's easy to understand. But so I said, okay, what can you say about this? Okay, this is clear. It seems to be clear in the sense that, okay, I understood the world, I understood what it's referring to, but this understanding, I realized this morning, that it's superficial. Superficial in the sense that if I stay with that intellectual, let's say, understanding, it's information that does not move my heart. It does not touch my heart. So we need to reflect on what this means. What does it mean that things will vanish? What does it mean that things will vanish? What does it mean? So I have to go back, and yesterday vanished, this morning vanished. What does it mean? What does it mean? Not let's find the dictionary meanings, what does the word vanish mean? No, we know that. That's not what we need to reflect means. What does it mean in my heart? What is the impact of this? How does it feel? How do I experience it? What does transience truly mean? It means something that I like, I dislike. What is my relationship with it? What is its impact on me? That everything will vanish. And only then we will truly grasp the meaning of something and internalize it. And of course, what comes to my mind is in the Quran, we are told that it is the heart that understands and grasps. Remember in Surah Al-A'raf, Surah 7, in Ayah 179, it's easy to remember this ayah because it comes right before the ayah that says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. That's how I remember it. It's my reference point. So in 179, we are told, and most certainly, we have destined to hell many of the jinn and people. Who are these people who end up in hell? They who have hearts with which they fail to grasp. لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها. فقه, it's to grasp, to truly understand. And so they have hearts with which they do not, they fail to grasp, and eyes with which they fail to see. So now it is parallel. Just like the eyes sees, the heart grasps. The intellect understands first something and then takes it in and then weighs it in the heart. What does it truly mean to me? And you see, these people, they have eyes with which they don't see. It means they have not seen the truth. They have not used their sight for the purpose of its creation. So they saw things, but they didn't see what those things really meant. Last week, we gave the example of a check. They saw a piece of paper with some, how do you say, like not graffiti, but some, yeah, they don't even know that it's writing, a piece of paper. And then, but those who truly see, they saw a check and they saw what it meant and they saw the value and the meaning of it. So if they see the check as a piece of paper, it's correct, but they missed the whole point. So they didn't really see what it is. And ears with which they fail to hear. So you see, sight, hearing are all supposed to be used in a certain way. And when we don't, it takes us to hell, away from God's compassion, from paradise, because we didn't see anything. That's what hell is. We didn't see the meaning of anything. We didn't hear anything. They are like cattle. Nay, they are even less conscious of the right way. It is they who are the heedless, al-ghafilun. So this is the description of people in ghafla, people who are heedless. What does heedlessness mean? Hearts, but they don't use their hearts to grasp. They don't use their eyes to see truly, and they don't use, and of course we can use this for every other faculty that we have been gifted with. Right after, in 7:180, we are told, and to God alone belong the most beautiful names. Invoke him then by these and stay away from all those who distort the meaning of his names. How do they distort it? They give it to the things themselves. And so they get stuck and enamored and infatuated with the things themselves, because we have been created with the love and infatuation for the beautiful names. But they belong to God only. But when we are not aware, when we don't use our heart to grasp what's going on, when we don't use our eyes to see and our hearing to hear truly, then we take it for granted without asking questions that all those beautiful attributes and qualities that we see in the world, that we interact with, and that we love and need and appreciate, we give them we ascribe them to the things themselves, and we don't realize that they don't belong to those things. Those things come and go. They cannot be the source of anything. You see, transience is important here. But here I shared this passage not for transience, but mostly for the heart needs to be involved if we want to grasp the reality of anything. So if I say they vanish and then go and carry on and say, I understood the first loss, then I didn't really, it does not have an impact on me, because I didn't take it in and weigh it. What does it truly mean? It means, what is its impact on me? What is transience? How does the transience of things, separation from beloveds, from objects of love and infatuation and appreciation, how does it affect me? So I don't see the weight, the significance of what's going on. So we need to have involved the heart. And the more that when the heart is involved, we become more conscious. We become conscious of our true attachments to things, to the world, to whatever is happening in the world. That it means things that are impermanent, that are transient. And then when we become aware of our attachments to the world, then we will feel suffocated by the pain, when we remember transience and separation. We will feel like squeezed and like we can't breathe. And if we don't cheat and run away from that painful state without resolving it, if we don't run away and pretend that it doesn't exist and delude ourselves by seeking comfort in ghafla, in heedlessness, in forgetting the reality of transience, then if we don't do that and we stay with that pain, with that being suffocated, with feeling like in a dead end, then we will start to truly feel the need for help, the need for guidance, the need to get out of that dead end, to get out of that suffocating place, space, or that way of being, or that out of that pit when we are, everything is transient and we love them and the separation is so hurtful, it hurts. So that's why we feel the need for help. Please help. I want to get out of this situation. I need guidance. Where is the light? Where is the healing? Otherwise, we'll carry on claiming something and living another thing. Claiming, alhamdulillah, praise and gratitude and thanks belong to God alone, but all our heart appreciates everything else, and of course can't appreciate God because we don't know what God is. If my appreciation is to the things themselves, then God is not a reality in my life, because God, I find him through the things, because those things, the beauty, the whatever I'm appreciating in those things, the perfection, whatever benefit, it belongs to him. And that's how I get to know him and love him and worship him and appreciate him and praise him. Otherwise, if I'm stuck in the things, it means my relationship with God is only a claim. It is not reality.
Dr. Yamina, it just takes actually a couple moments to recognize what a big plight we are in, when we turn away from our source. Because you know, it sometimes hits me as I'm getting older. I have seen people pass away. I mean, not literally with them, but when I was when
you knew and
when you're younger, yes. When you're younger, you see one or two, you don't know that many people. Then, you know, it's so close. Like this person had given me, some great uncle had given me this perfume. He passed away. The perfume is still there. I didn't finish it yet, but he's got like, or you know, some other uncle passed away recently. We were just talking about him, and I saw him the previous summer, and I had the feeling I won't see him again. Like this strange feeling. He wasn't sick, and then he's so, and so many like this number of people that I have had the opportunity to meet or interact with, I look back and whoa, this is gone. This was my graduate advisor. This was this person. This was, and then people, the loved ones of the people whom you know, and then just things that you think of like, whoa, this house, it will take me this many years to pay it off, and finally we paid off, and then we're like, maybe I won't be here, or even if it's fully paid off, I'm almost, you know, I would be almost ready to go. So if I am still alive, so all of this, you know, it just takes a moment of kind of noting, and then it looks so empty. Like, what is it that we're running after? If it's not, if it doesn't give you any guarantee of, you know, like if you're richer, then you may have an additional year added to your life. You know, that's something maybe it looks like. Or if you have friends, then you like, no, there's no. You could be the most established person today, and you may not wake up tomorrow. And I wanted to connect with a verse that I came across recently, if you don't mind me.
Sure, please.
I know everybody has their own readings, but I feel like it fits here really well. When I first read this, it felt like, oh, you know, this is Ibrahim alayhi salam speaking, Abraham. It says, استعيذ بالله وقال إنما اتخذتم من دون الله أوثانا مودة بينكم في الحياة الدنيا ثم يوم القيامة يكفر بعضكم ببعض ويلعن بعضكم بعضا ومأواكم النار وما لكم من ناصرين. So, I mean, it's a very familiar passage in the Quran. I mean, it's repeated in different forms. In this particular instance, it's Ibrahim alayhi salam talking, and it's just a love between you and them. I'm like, it's not fair. We love things. Like, he's just smashing them. He's like, it's just love, and they're gonna deny you in the day of judgment. But actually, it is revealing because this is what it is. And so, why are you stuck in this? And why don't you see it as a sign that, you know, you like when we first read it without this kind of Quranic wisdom that, you know, we've been talking about, it looks like it's harsh. We love them, but actually they're going to leave us. No, if you think, when you realize that these things are vanishing, the love in your heart says, no, I can't love this. I have to find something else or see what this is pointing to. And so the loss is actually already there. It's just we need to take a moment to reflect and remember. And that's why the hadith that was mentioned, I think last time, remember death often, right? It isn't to kind of have a miserable life, or I'm always thinking about death. There's nothing miserable about it. It's about, it gives you a transparency about what is it that I'm living in this life. It's a foretaste.
It gives a true perspective.
Yeah.
On life, on the world.
Yeah. And it isn't about cursing the world. It's about saying that this way of being in the world, this way of attaching yourself to the world is painful. It's not worth it. So what do I do? I mean, this transaction, and that's why it's so remarkable. The transaction is not about giving it up. Like when you, the previous verse you cited, it said the eyes that they don't see with. It doesn't mean pluck out your eye. It means start seeing with your eye. Right?
Yeah. Learn to see things as they are. They are ayat. They are created with purpose, with meaning. So start reading the meaning. And it's good you share this ayah about Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. When we did the Labayk series with the Maha, we talked about Ibrahim alayhi salam, when what we learned that is smashing the idols is not destroying things. Like, because we live in the world, we cannot transcend the world, we cannot go out of the world, we cannot go out of our body. It is not, it is about how we relate to the world and to ourselves. And this relationship is either when we imagine that we exist independently of our maker, and there is no, we see ourselves separate from him because we are not aware, we did not take the time to pause and reflect and really appreciate that we are being sustained here and now. Then when we don't do that, it seems by default, it seems that it's my life, I'm doing what I can, I'm actually striving for my own, to make my life meaningful, I'm striving for some goals, and that is giving me purpose. It seems like I'm taking responsibility for my life, it's mine, I do whatever I want with it, and I become the Rabb in my little world, and I project this self-perception onto the world, and everything seems to be independent and separate. They just things, and their worth and their meaning will be confined and limited to my relationship with them. And so if something I benefited, it becomes, I benefit from it, it becomes my idol. I'm making it into a small deity, a source of some benefit. If something scares me, I'm again making it into an idol because it has, as though it has the power to do something with me. And the relationships seem to remain, or in that world of delusion, everything seems to be horizontal. And that's when I wake up to the reality, things are still there, but they're not idols anymore. It means what I'm smashing is my misperception of those things, my illusory connection, horizontal connection to them, or my illusory connection that I think are between different things. That is going to disappear on its own, all, and to be resolved when I start seeing them for what they are, meaning coming from God and bringing meaning and messages for me. So the connections become all vertical. They point to the maker and they make him known to me. And then I start also questioning my own being and my own relationship with, as my relationship with things starts transforming, my relationship with myself and therefore with my Rabb also transforms. I become the abd, the recipient of the creativity of blessings, and not the creator. I'm not the creator of anything, and things are not creating anything, and nothing is a source, neither myself nor things. There is only one source, and that's the Lahul Asma al Husna. All the beautiful names, all the beautiful attributes of perfection belong to him only. So it's idol versus ayah. The things are still there, but when I smash my delusion that things are idols, that they are source of anything, and that happens when I start reading them as ayah. And that's why it says in number 2, I think, was it? In loss number 2, it says you will suffer the penalty for betrayal of the trust for you will have wronged your own selves by using the most precious tools on the most worthless object. So the worthless object is the idle aspect of things. Things are still there and they become very worthy and very meaningful when I see them for what they are, messengers from the all compassionate, from the sustainer of all worlds. But when I'm not seeing them for what they are, I don't know that they're ambassadors. I think I can use them as I want, then they become worthless. And I'm using those precious tools on worthless objects. When I start using my tools properly, then those things are not worthless anymore. And of course, I won't be, now they are worthy, now I can love them and stick to them. No, because if I'm using my tools and faculties properly, I will be aware that they are there just to deliver a message. I get the message and that's it. Once I get the message, you may keep the paper with the message or not, it doesn't matter. As long as you got the message, you acted on it, it changed. Like it's like you got a small message saying you need to do something very quickly.
Come over for dinner, Yamina. That's the message.
Sorry, what was it?
Come over for dinner.
Yeah, so what's the point in keeping the invitation with me and not going to dinner? Once you go to dinner, you can, that's it. Like you got the message, you went there. So it's how...
Worry about saving that text.
Yeah, I mean...
That text is deleted, you're invited for dinner, you go.
That's it. You can delete it. You can delete it even before going there if it doesn't have an address or something. Yeah. You keep it only if it has an address. And afterwards, that's it. It fulfilled its purpose. So it's not for the words there, the message itself, collecting messages, but it's for the meaning that they deliver to us and signify to us. And it's explained. Sorry?
In second loss, is there also a sense of like there is in us, we already feel deep down bad for betraying the trust. It says you will have wronged your own self. So in addition to getting stuck in that transience and losing eternal connection, we also feel, maybe not explicitly, but implicitly, because we are made for that. So I am wronging my own self by when I deprive myself.
We feel something is missing. And usually what people do, they are going to work harder, but again in the worldly, like without any true future. Because we feel like human beings, like all the potential that we are created with, all the faculties that we are, you feel that there is a tremendous potential and meaning and worth in this. And usually we think, and all around us, what they tell us, it's like you get some status, something that is recognized by people, you have fulfilled your potential. And people get there and they feel even worse, because when we are not there, we think that it's because I'm not there. I didn't work hard enough. But when you get there, you feel even more empty and more meaningless, because now there is no alternative, it feels, unless you truly transform that breakdown into a breakthrough and start asking the right question, like, what am I doing here? And stop pretending that you know the answers or you know how to fulfill your purpose in life. When we stop pretending, because we truly don't know anything, then you say, I don't know, please, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, whoever you are, who put me here, please show me the way. And that's where, when we start receiving the message of and the guidance of the Quran, it starts unfolding, because now we feel the need for it. Otherwise, it's like food, it's sitting there, but I don't even feel the need to put it in my mouth. Now I feel the need to reflect, put it in my heart and reflect on these messages. And it's only then that it will start enlightening me and transforming me and changing the way I connect to myself and the world. So betraying the trust is, it was mentioned before, is not using ourselves and therefore our property in the world. Our property is not only what is written on my name or what's in my house. Everything in the world, I get to use it. I get to use the air. I get to use the light, everything, myself and the world. I get to start to use them for the purpose of their creation. When I am not, I'm betraying the trust. And that's wronging ourselves. And what else did he say? And because you will have used the most precious tools on the most worthless object. And the next one will, the next loss actually explains further what it means. So the third loss, it says, by casting down all the precious faculties of human being to a level much inferior to the animals, because like in the ayah, it says, you'll be worse than animals, because they were not given, they were not meant to know all that. But human being is created for that and lives as if with mindlessness, unconscious of his purpose in life. So he becomes worse than animals, and you will have insulted and transgressed against God's wisdom, because God's wisdom, God's will is for you to use your own self, your sight, your tongue, your hearing, your heart to fulfill the purpose of your creation. And you go against the flow, and by going against the flow, we are put in perpetual pain, and that pain is again good. That pain is there also. It's a messenger from God telling us, please, like, go away, turn back. This is a dead end. You don't want to go here. And we see that pain is saying dead end, and we see the signs, and we carry on. Maybe there is something, because we insist, we persist on avoiding the reality of transience, and therefore whatever we do, because we are living as though the world is not transient, it's going to always be in contradiction with that reality, and we are always going to feel squeezed and suffocated. And instead of pausing and reflecting and saying, I need help now, help me out of here, we say, no, I know, I'll find it, next turn. And we would have transgressed against God's wisdom, which is again an explanation of, what was it? The trust, betraying the trust. And so by doing all this, when we are in that state of ghafla, it seems like I'm taking on responsibility for my own fulfilling, for my own achievements. I'm going to do something with my life, my own, find purpose and happiness, because there is no happiness without meaning and purpose. And the happiness is like the the side effect, the consequence of meaning and purpose that shows us that you are on the right way or not. And so it becomes, when we act as though we're in charge of making things happen, then what we are doing, we are assuming a burden beyond our capacity. Because we haven't even figured out what our true need is, and our true need is connected, pertains to eternal purpose, eternal meaning, and therefore eternal happiness. It is, unless we get in touch with that true yearning and longing within us, we won't feel how urgent it is for us to stop and find our true direction. The direction here, it seems like a direction in space, time and space, but it's actually a direction in inner life, in perception of who we are and what the world is about. The istiqama is either connecting with God or disconnecting. And when we are not connected to God truly, we are disconnected from ourselves and from the world, because there is only one true connection to God, and through God we can connect with everything. And if we are not connected to the true source, we always feel alien, we always feel we don't belong truly, and we always feel disconnected. And we long for that belonging and that connection, and we try to find it again in the world. And even if we are putting those conditions that we think will bring us connection and belonging, after a while, it doesn't satisfy us, because it cannot. It doesn't mean that when we find the true connection, then we will have true connection in every situation. Of course, some situations will be better than others, but in every situation, there will be a form of true connecting, because we are connecting to Him and therefore to ourselves. And that's the burden of the fourth loss. In your weakness here is ajz, your powerlessness. And poverty here is faqr, means your needs, having needs, having so many needs and no power to fulfill those needs. This is your situation, yet you have placed the heavy burden of life on your weak shoulders, and you constantly groan and lament beneath the blows of transience and separation. And of course, the fifth one again, he's talking again about the faculties that have been given to us, which he mentions in number 3, and also he doesn't say only self, but he talks about the
intellect, the heart, the eye.
Yeah. Where was that?
Fifth, repeats in the fifth one.
Okay. So in the fifth one, yeah. So he repeats that, and I find that very important, because we tend to gloss over that, and so we say Allah states that He will compensate the believers with paradise when they sell themselves. First, we don't know how to sell ourselves, because what is myself? What does it mean to sell myself? It means one by one, I have to learn to use my faculties in a particular way. It is not when my heart changes, when my intention changes, and I start doing the work, and I start reading perceiving things as ayat, as messengers from God bearing messages. So now they are not idols anymore. And now I feel the need to read. As I learn to read, the more the heart changes, the more all these faculties are tied and connected to the heart. And so I start seeing things as they are, hearing their glorification, their tasbihat, their messages, and everything starts changing. So it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's not like my eye is seeing the ayat, but I don't hear them. No, everything works together. And my tongue starts also tasting. But of course, each time I have to make the decision, the choice, and intend to live that way, to practice what I learned. Otherwise, just because I learned something and reflected on it, so I reflect, I internalize it, and then I have to act. If I don't act, then it won't stay in my heart. It will leave. In order to anchor it in the heart, I have to act on it every day. And then everything starts changing. In my life, everything will change. That's why all the benefits are connected and all the losses are also connected.
Dr. Yamin, I just wanted to note that when it says you will have insulted and transgressed against God's wisdom in the third loss, I initially thought, okay, but that's not my problem. I insulted God's wisdom. Is it my loss? And of course it's my loss because I have been decked out with divine wisdom, with special precious faculties that maybe a bird doesn't have. Right? The bird is glorifying God in its own way, but it doesn't have the capacity to see the universe the way my heart and my intellect can see. So when I don't use them in that higher level, then I am, and when I insult thereby the one who gave me all of this, I am the loser. And a very kind of petty example came to my mind, just as a metaphor. When I first started to go to a hotel, I was an adult the first time I stayed in a hotel room by myself ever. So I couldn't understand that thing that opens up and you put your luggage on. I looked at it, I was like, it's not a seat because it's not really fully in a cloth. Definitely not a desk. What is this? And I used to ignore it because I didn't know what to do with it until I had a roommate once, and then she put it on. She put the luggage on there. I was like, whoa, this is for the luggage. So all that time, when I said this is some silly piece of furniture in the hotel room, I am insulting the person who prepared that room. So they put the silly thing here. And I'm actually depriving myself from having a higher luggage place where I'm always bending all the way down to get my things from my luggage. So, I mean, that's a kind of a very tiny example, but it's not even an example. It's just a metaphor. So when I use things in a way that insults the wisdom of the Creator, I am the loser in this. And with that, I wanted to also encourage friends who are in the room with us today, please feel free to speak your heart, what is resonating with you, any comments, any questions. It's been over an hour now. And so feel free to also share comments.
So in the fifth loss, we can only blame ourselves for the outcome because we are equipped with the tools to prepare for eternal life and eternal happiness. We've been given the needs. The need is the most important. And the urge to look for guidance, the need to understand, the need for meaning, the need for protection, the need for all the beautiful names of God, and the urge to, when we don't find it, the urge for to look for guidance, to look for help. And we have been equipped with the ability to grasp the guidance and act on it and follow it and act on it. And we've been given all the tools like intellect, heart, eye, tongue to weigh down and grasp and taste and know the beautiful names of God. So everything is there, but if we are not using the guidance and following it, and if we insist on remaining in a state of ghafla because we are afraid of the reality of transience, then, I mean, yeah, what? No one can help us. Allah is giving us everything, but then it's like someone is preparing everything for us, but they cannot force us to eat it or to chew. But the food and everything is there, and we are hungry, and we don't know that we are hungry. So the most important thing here, I think, there are steps here, is to remain conscious. The first step is to remain consciously aware of the transience of this world, of everything. It means to not run away from this reality of transience, to not distract ourselves from it, away from it. And in the beginning, we can start with the 20 minutes, at least in the beginning, to start with, reflections, and remind ourselves. We can write ayat, we can write something that speaks to our heart, like al-mawtu haqqun, or kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Every soul, every self is a taster of death. And it reminds me of Umar radiallahu anh, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, who we are told had engraved on his ring, death is sufficient as admonition. And we're told that the Prophet ﷺ, the companion said there was no meeting together, coming together, where he would not remind us of death. And so automatically, why this is important? First, it's reality. We are now anchored in reality. Second, automatically the heart cannot attach to itself or invest. We can't be invested in things that are transient. So it's like ending the seeming illusory horizontal connection with things. Now the heart says, "La uhibbul afilin," like Ibrahim alayhi salam. I don't like things that pass. I cannot love and be attached and invest my life and think and invest the purpose and meaning of my life on something that is impermanent. And this is not something that we think out. It is something that the heart will automatically be in that state when we have internalized the reality of transience by not running away from it. And then the second step is to, now that those seeming illusory horizontal connections with things are cut through this reality, now we are going to reconnect with everything in a new way through the source of everything, through the source. And of course, through the source, we don't start with the source. We will start seeing things in a new way. And we learn from the Quran. we will start seeing them as ayat, means as messengers. They are bearing messages. They are speaking. We read them. We listen to them. And now they are telling us about our Rabb, their maker, our maker. They're glorifying him by reciting his beautiful names. And now we take part in the glorifying God with his beautiful names. And now they are our like siblings, like fellow worshippers. So now we have a true relationship with them, but it's a new relationship. They are the ones that help us in our path to God. They help us, they remind us, they make God known to us in new ways every day. So we have a connection, but it is not the old connection where we were attached to them and almost like begging from them and expecting benefit and happiness from them by ascribing to them the beautiful names that we see reflected on them, and not knowing that they actually doesn't belong to them. And one typical example is lifeless water. And we take it for granted that it is giving life. Without water, there's no life. True, without water, there's no life. It doesn't mean anything. It is lifeless. Someone is giving life through that lifeless water. That is the giver of life. So we start reading the ayat and our relationship with the world start changing, and it becomes meaningful, it becomes purposeful, it becomes full of wisdom. And wherever we turn, there we will see the face of God that looks to the beautiful names of God and that looks to Akhirah. So we will be preparing to Akhirah here and now. Meanwhile, we are using our faculties in the way they were supposed to be for the purpose of that creation. So the world is transient, it's our starting point. And if you look at the Quran, it's a recurrent theme in the Quran. And remember, I think we did study Surah Al-Hadid, Surah 57. And if you look at ayah 20 and 21, we are told, bear in mind that the life of this world is merely a game. This is repeated in the Quran many times. إنما الحياة الدنيا إنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم. So the life of this world is merely a game and a diversion and a beautiful show and a cause of boasting among yourselves and of greed and rivalry in wealth and children. It, meaning the life of this world, is like plants that spring up after rain. Their growth at first delights the cultivator, but then you see them wither away. So rain comes, everything grows, it looks all green and nice, and then a wind comes and they wither away and turn yellow and become stubble. But in the life to come, terrible suffering, but also forgiveness from God and his goodly acceptance for the life of this world is nothing but an enjoyment of self-delusion. And this expression is also repeated many times in the Quran. The next ayah, 51, we're told, hence race each other in seeking forgiveness from your Rabb and to a paradise as vast as the heavens and the earth, which has been prepared for those who have believed in God and his messengers. That is God's favor, which he grants to whomever he wills, for God's favor is truly immense. And again, you see that it is how we relate to the world. The world is there to take us to paradise, but I can be the process of the rain and then everything growing and then withering. The whole process is speaking to me. But if I don't reflect on the meaning and just I like the green crops and I say this is I'm living for this, then I will be disappointed. That's self-delusion. But otherwise, if I read the whole process as meaningful, telling me about Akhirah, for instance, about resurrection, for instance, about how God is the sustainer and the gifter, the provider of all this, then it becomes a means for paradise. So it's where life in itself is not the problem. Life is created with meaning, with purpose, but how I perceive it and how I relate to it is going to be for me or against me. And we know that because in other places in the Quran, we are told that we have not created the heavens and the earth and everything that is between them without meaning and purpose. Or did you think that we have created you in mere idle play, for instance? So things are created with purpose. It is only we who may forget the purpose. So it's important that we stop evading the reality of transience. It becomes easy to not get horizontally attached. It becomes like we don't have to force ourselves to not be invested in things themselves. When we keep in mind, we're aware that they are transient, then we cannot love them for themselves. The heart does not like transience. And then we will be like, so what's the meaning of all this? We will feel the need for guidance. When we connect to the true source, then we can come back and we will be taught how to look at them in a new way. And we will see that, lo and behold, they are all speaking to us and guiding us and helping us on our way to eternal happiness, on our way to get closer to God and to worship Him and be grateful to Him alone. And we see that they are all glorifying Him, making tasbihat and making Him known. And so not only they won't distract us from our life purpose, they will actually remind us of it. They will actually help us in fulfilling that purpose. And so now we understand why we're told, for instance, in the Quran, in Surah Al-Munafiqeen, Surah 63, Ayah 9, we are told, O you who have believed, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, let not your your wealth, your property, and your children make you oblivious, make you forget the remembrance of God. For if any behaves thus, it is they who are the losers. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. You will be the loser. So do not let them make you forget the remembrance of God. But what we are learning here in this sixth word is a way that not only we won't forget the forgiveness, the remembrance of God, dhikr Allah, but also will be the means to remind us of God and remind us of remembering. It will be a means of glorifying God, of remembering God. The good and the bad, everything reminds us of God. And when we are not doing that, when we are, what do we do? We're betraying the trust. The betrayal of the trust in the Quran, it's like a slander, iftira, or like in Surah Al-Humaza, what do we say? وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. It's like woe onto every slanderer and fault finders. What does he do? Who amasses wealth and counts it as safeguards. الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده. Thinking that his wealth will make him live forever. So the problem is not the wealth, but what you do with it. You are counting on the wealth. The wealth is your safeguard. The wealth is what will keep me alive and safe forever. We're making the wealth into an idol. That's a slanderer, because it's slandering God's creation and therefore God. And that's how we are, what was it? It was in the 5th one, or betraying the trust, and there was transgressing against God's wisdom. That's transgressing against God's wisdom. And of course, we also have the ayat that comes to my mind, that we are told that everything will bear witness against us on the day of judgment. Our tongues and hands, they said their own tongues and hands and fear will bear witness against us. And we'll also told that their hearing and their sight and their skins will bear witness against them. And people will ask, like, how do you bear witness against us? And they will say, well, أنطقنا الله الذي أنطق كل شيء. I love this passage from the Quran. God, who makes everything speak meaningfully, is the one who is making us speak now. They would be like, how can you speak? How can you even witness against me? They said, well, we always spoke. God makes everything speak meaningfully. You're just the fool, who are not aware of that. And if we learn how to listen to the speech of everything, we'll realize that everything indeed is glorifying God and speaking about Him and speaking to us all the time. So in Akhirah, no wonder they can witness for us or against us. But it's interesting that the hearing, the sight, and even the skin will witness against them. Please, if you have, I think we'd better stop now because it's Maghrib time here. But if you have any comments or anything, please share with us before we end it. I can make the dua, but please think about if you have anything to share. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين آمين يا أرحم الراحمين استغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانه.
The last part, the very last paragraph, is very helpful because the stakes are so high. If I have this bargain, it's very profitable. If I don't do this bargain, it's a major loss. But then maybe the bargain is hard. Maybe the bargain is like you have to climb this mountain. And if you don't, these are the consequences. If you do, these are good things, but maybe it's so hard. And so that would be the last piece of misunderstanding. And it treats it very, very beautifully. It's like it is not the least burdensome because what you're being asked to do is not like go up to this mountain. It's
because the one who put the limits, he talks about the limits of halal and haram. He is the one who knows what is best for you. So the limit of halal is so wide, it's enough, more than enough for fulfilling all your desires here on earth. And if there is a limitation, it's because if you go beyond, it's going to be against you in this world and especially the eternal life, which is their true goal.
And due to our light and feeble number, if we look from this perspective, I mean, prayer is a burden when we go through the emotions. But
In the beginning, he's speaking at someone who is still not there. So he's saying it may seem like...
Yeah, but actually, if you take a moment to feel what the prayer is, actually, it is not heavy. I mean, the movement is not heavy either. Sarah, is that?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. What came to my mind, and it just seemed like a very complimentary message when Dr. Yamina was sharing. Came to me today as I was reflecting on my brother, Allah yarhamu. During the meditation, actually, I finally was called to do it. Like Aliyat says, I highly recommend everybody set a timer for 20 minutes to breathe, because you notice so many different things coming to you and you have time to really sit with them and ponder them seriously, because you're forcing yourself to sit there for 20 minutes. So what came to me was that I was gifted a very special experience of seeing someone who I really love as a corpse without any, life longer. And I got to lay sit next to this corpse for quite some time. So what I can share about that experience is, as I laid meditating today, it came to me that everything, and we are all just a corpse. The plants around you are corpse. Everything is actually just corpse. And life happens to it. So it's not like death is going to come once upon a time. It's like, actually, I am a corpse. I have actually no ability to breathe or taste or see, unless the seeing one, almost like, the image that comes to my mind is like a touch of like a magic wand, then you can all of a sudden see. The same with breathing. It's the touch of this divine happening to me now that lets me see or hear or smell. Otherwise, I am just a corpse as well. I think death is like, and the transience is such a hard thing to think about, but even like the plants that, that you have around you, it's easy to see that, it's actually not alive, but there's a living one that is happening unto it. And I think, I don't know, if we can see ourselves, if we can start to see ourselves as that corpse, and then the people around us then become also just corpse, because one day we're going to see everyone that we love with just their flesh, their cold. And it's something that I think just awakens you to this very deep reality that Al-Hayy, there's a living one that's touching me with life in this moment. And then the plant is being touched with life. And then the water is being touched with life. Everything, because I see myself that way, I start to see everything that way. And I it's such a loss. Like, I've been sharing these reflections on my social media, and there's so many people that are not Muslim that have reached out to me like, wow, like, and it's really, it's a summary from our halakas. But these people are like, oh, this helps me so much with grieving my XYZ, mother, father, whoever. And I'm like, oh, great, mashallah, I hope my brother, gets the reward. But it's just because it's such a huge loss to experience death. Even to the so-called Muslim, it's such a huge loss unless we start to see the truth that we are all corpse being touched by life. And then, subhanAllah, like I remember Dr. Yamina telling me something when my brother passed, and it didn't actually click until recently. It's like that message was given life anew recently, that I can still be connected to my past brother that deceased through the all-seeing one, through the all-hearing one, through this being that connected us to begin with. So now when I feel sad that he can't see special things, I'll just pray that the all-seeing one can show him, and I don't have any disconnect, I feel like, from him when I'm in that state of consciousness. I hope that helps.
It reminded me of the dua of Wais al-Qarani, when he says, Anta al-Hayyu, وأنا الميت. You are أنت المحيي. You are the giver of life. How do I know that? Because I am the dead one. I'm dead. You said, but I'm not dead. Yes, but life is not from me, because I see that I'm being infused with life here and now. And if it stops, I will be dead. So life is not from me, and I know that you are the giver of life. Subhanallah.
I like the, Jazakallah khair, Sarah, for sharing. I like the connection part, because a lot of times, like, you have these waves, especially with people that pass that you love, you have these waves of missing them, and like these waves of emotions, and usually the waves of emotions take you to, like, you know, to that place of, like, you know, I'm alone, like the people, like those people that I love the most have left, like, you know, it's so then, but then, like, so to take these emotions and to stop, and then, like, you know, the word, like, give them back and sell them back and say, okay, this is, like, you know, these emotions are coming to me because, like, you know, I'm invited now to, like, to ask the overseer to make them see how much I love them, or to ask the, you know, the old giver to give us, you know, better times together, inshallah. So that, like, to take these emotions and give them back. I had a friend that whenever we would remember any of our friends who passed away, she will say, okay, as long as we remembered her, then let's stop and read Fatiha, because she, her belief is that she's calling on us now to read Fatiha for her, to send her some dua, because she needs them. So she's thinking about the waves that come to us as need from the other side. Like, you know, they need us to make dua for them. They're calling on us to make dua for them. They're reminding us of, like, you know, that they're needy even after they passed away. And because they cannot do anything and we can still do things, we're the ones who our hearts get tagged upon, so that we can do things for them. We can make dua, we can do things in their honor, like the Prophet, when he says people, when they pass away, everything cuts down except the knowledge that they leave behind that people benefit from, the, like, you know, the sadaqah jariyah that, like, benefits people. But then the dua, like, which is very interesting, the dua of, like, you know, those that they left behind. So that dua, it's like it adds to them some way, in a way that we don't understand. Like, we understand if you make a hospital in someone's honor, you know, sick people will be, you know, relieved, and, or, you know, if you dig a well of water, people will be drinking. But the dua, it's like that, that untouchable thing that is even mentioned as the first thing, like, you know, that keeps adding to them. So Yamina, I don't know exactly how does that happen, but do you have a comment on that?
Oh, well, you shared so many things, so a comment on which part?
On how the dua adds, like, when our hearts are moved for people that passed, it's like a call on us to make dua, like Sarah was saying, like to talk to God about, to talk to the all seeing or hearing about them, to make dua for them. Like, how does that dua reach them, and how does that dua help them? Anyway, that's a mystery.
Oh, I'm looking at the time now.
Someone's fasting in the middle of the month, so I know some of them.
I don't want to start and leave it.
We can do it another time, but that's my, like, you know, that one.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Yalla, Allah.
So,
Mubarak for those.
inshallah, we ended the sixth word, and I invite you to go through it again. And I know that I did not talk much about the end, but as Isra noted, it's also very important, because it's saying, is it difficult to tell the truth? No, it is not burdensome to tell the truth. Actually, the burden is when we don't sell the trust. So by all means, I think if we understand what's going on, we need to learn to sell the trust back. And I'm saying the two first steps. First one is to ponder and reflect on the transience of this world. That's the first step. And from there, inshallah, we'll come to the second step. We will be prepared to learn from the Quran. Otherwise, we won't feel the need for it. And whatever we talk about, the meaning of dua, what it means, it will remain as information because we won't feel the need for meaning, for truly, I won't feel helpless. I have to first feel helpless, first feel trapped in this dead end pit of I have all these longings and this love and this and the beloveds, and at the same time everything is transient, and I cannot appreciate how to solve this unless I am present with there is an issue here and look for the healing, inshallah. So inshallah, the intention is to start the 33rd word. It has 33 parts, an introduction and 33 parts, inshallah, next week, bidnillah, if we are still here on earth. Meanwhile, let's pray for each other and make istighfar, ask for forgiveness for our forgetting and getting back into our bubbles of delusion. And may we stay longer and longer in that state of awakeness in the presence of the true beloved, inshallah.
Inshallah. And it's beautiful. In many Quranic passages, it talks about the paradise and forgiveness. And I didn't used to understand what, these are the winners. What is there to forgive? But actually, the reward of eternal happiness, along with forgiveness, we need both. And that's nice that the speech is ending with forgiveness as well. All you need to do is to act in God's name, give and take in God's name, it says here. So it's not like always giving, you also take in God's name. You also breathe. It's not like you stop breathing or eating or interacting. It's just you do it in God's name. It's indescribably pleasurable honor, it says. Inshallah, we can feel this. And if you fall short, ask for forgiveness. So it's a nice way of ending, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina, for leading us in these studies. And Jazakumullah khair, everyone joining us tonight. And inshallah, we'll continue next week.
inshallah. في أمان الله. فالله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. He is the best protector, for he is the most compassionate of the compassionate, inshallah.
جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم.